Oh, yeah.
Yeah, usually when you start a podcast, right? Um, Trial and error in the beginning, audio issues, scheduling issues, topic issues, um,
But not
all
anymore.
that, all that
We've
stuff.
moved on. This is episode 14.
We not only have we not not only have we progressed, we've progressed in, I would like to say, negative numbers. You're a math guy, right? We've gone like, oh, we're
We've
going,
gone negative.
we've gone but I think though,
Like in Spaceballs, they've gone plaid.
I think though, it actually might be a good thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
because I think
definitely
it,
a cup, uh,
yeah.
a cup. Let me think about it. A cup, 1/10 full kind of attitude right there.
No, not 1/10 full. How about 9/10 full?
No, 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 you don't understand. See, anyways, whatever.
How about 9/10
That would mean
full?
the cup was very full.
Yeah.
I'm trying to say that we may be lacking a bit, but we're still going to look
Well,
at it as
I
9/10, 1/10, whatever. But
but
full, full.
here's the thing.
Very
In spite
positive
of,
thinking here.
well,
Despite
in
the zero
spite
listeners and horrible everything, what? Go ahead, give it to me.
the content is
Mm-hmm.
spectacular.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is.
Nope.
It really
I
is.
mean, I won't tell our live audience, but I kind of feel like we just need to erase everything. That was a good trial run and really just keep starting over until we finally just, till the skies split,
Well,
Or is it the seas part? Is that what I'm looking for?
I think what happens, Jeff, you have to realize that, sometimes those things are actually part of the program. They're part of what happens. They're part of what is interesting. They're part of the story. The uniqueness of, that kind of situation that we're dealing with is you really get to see, like, kind of the beginning, the inception, um,
I don't know.
the
Births can be pretty messy, Ron.
yeah, no, um, they
Uh-oh.
can, but
Sorry about that.
oh no, that's okay. That's
Hey, that's our third party here.
that's like our,
That's Dana. She's trying to be here with us.
well, I feel like, speaking of births, right? I mean,
Oh my, she won't stop.
you
She's
can you can cons-
speaking of
you
births.
you can consider each of these episodes, right? Children, additional children. We just keep giving birth.
14 now.
14 kids now. Think about that. And, as you said, birth can be messy. Um, I didn't, well, you're laughing. I didn't say that. You said that.
I know. That's the feeling I had when you were saying
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And so birth can be messy. And, I mean, I think this is an opportunity to observe a birth, right? You don't get to That's not something everybody gets to do. It's not something everybody is willing to share,
Yeah,
right? Right.
yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like, oh, hey, we're gonna give birth and we're gonna televise this. We're gonna share it so
Yes, it is
other
just like
people,
that. This is
yeah,
getting better and better.
other people can enjoy it, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
enjoy.
and glean.
Uh-huh. No, they're not
Yes.
gleaning. They're getting blood splattered on their face. And they're having images they
So you're
can't get out of
saying
their
it's
head.
live.
They got stuff they can't get out of their head right now.
Deep state?
Our invisible audience.
Oh.
This is a bloody mess. But don't worry, it's gonna get good.
Oh gosh. Jeff, why? Why? Um, what's going on, Jeff? I mean, tell me. Since
What's going
last
on?
time we, yeah, since last time we talked, what's happening? What's in the news? What's
Uh,
in your life?
oh
What's
my,
on your mind?
my, oh my,
What do you what do
oh
you have?
my.
What do you have for me tonight? You tell
Well,
me,
I
Jeff.
think I'm having. I think I'm
You know,
having a.
here's the
I think I'm
thing.
having a.
You
Oh, go
have
ahead. Go ahead.
never, Jeff, pause,
Yes, yes,
please,
I am pausing.
before you start to go on, and you can go on, trust me, but before you do, tell me what's on your mind.
Me?
Yes, you specifically. I mean,
Well,
usually, and here's why I
it's.
ask,
Go
because
ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
usually, you do not pick the topic. Usually, you do not initiate the discussion. So tonight, I'm calling on you. I'm going to choose you to go ahead and initiate and discuss whatever is on your heart tonight.
Wow, Ron, that might be a mistake actually, but I'm gonna go for it anyhow because we're all about mistakes around here. Let me see. I'd say I'm having an existential crisis right now.
Okay.
And I believe an existential crisis does not mean it means I'm not dying, right?
Okay. I'm
Okay.
listening.
Yeah, I'm not dying. I'm not dying of starvation. As of today, I got my job and making some money and supporting my family and not very sick and things are actually going really well when it comes to all that stuff. But I guess an existential crisis I'm reading online is a moment in which an individual questions if their life has meaning, purpose, or value. Now, I'm not questioning whether my life has meaning, purpose, or value exactly, but um, I'm really troubled by my human experience with my fellow beings on this planet Earth. I don't know that people for the most part, are thinking very clearly about things, if thinking at all. And I've had waves of these feelings for many years. Um, it comes and goes in different forms. I think the first time I ever felt it was when I was very first becoming a Christian. I was at Mount Sac, and I remember walking the campus and looking at the different people and thinking to myself that they're all dying, malnourished, starving in sort of a metaphorical sense. And I have a feast for them, but when I try to give them food, they say it's fake. And then they continue to reach down to the ground, pick up mounds of dirt, and eat it. And so they're malnourished, bodies were not due to the lack of food available. It was just their choice to continue to deny the food was real and to just eat things that were fake. All right. So I don't know if I'm making any sense right now. Am I making any sense?
You're making perfect sense. I'm
All
listening.
right. All right. Just checking
I'm
in.
very
So,
on track. I'm
all right.
very engaged in what you're saying. I'm
So
very,
so I
I
think
think
that
I'm
was
very
one of
clear
the
on what you're saying.
all right. I think that was one of the first times where I really looked at everyone around me and began to question whether they were making really good decisions, if that makes any sense, and really were aware of what was going on. So that was in the context of Christianity. Uh, and even though I myself took on a variety of different views over time, I did find that there's that part of life, the spiritual part of life. And there are many people who aren't even really asking those questions. But putting that aside for a second, I got myself involved in a variety of things. Let's say within Christianity itself. So now, forget the world. Let's say within Christianity itself. As you know, there was that time I was asking questions about tithing. That's actually not a big deal to me when it comes to topics, but I find it very interesting that many people won't really think about it or read the passages or discuss it. So there comes another type of looking at the world and wondering what's going on here. So before it was the outside world, but the inside world as a Christian church, you find that people won't discuss things or talk about things. There's certain topics they won't touch. And of course, as you know, there's preterism and there's all these other things. And over time, I discovered that even within the church, certain topics were sort of untouchable. But the problem for me is not so much they're untouchable, it's the question of what is going on here? Why are people not really willing to talk about things or engaged in this topic? So that's within Christianity. But in my job, I noticed that there were things going on within my job, and there were people in power and positions and policies in place that were kind of weird. And I began to try to shape some of those policies. And again, I discovered at my job site that a lot of people might complain here and there, but a lot of people again weren't that engaged, and you could actually do quite a bit without people even noticing, it seemed. And now in my job, I noticed that in that area people aren't really thinking. And then more recently, as I'm thinking about all this stuff in my classroom, because I'm a teacher, I began to really take in the fact that I've experienced for years, and that is that I have a really hard time getting my students to learn mathematics. And mathematics is a straightforward axiomatic system in which we agree on a few sets of rules, and we just try to follow those rules. And that can be pretty challenging. People have a hard time. Many people, not all, but many people have a hard time just following the rules of the system and doing things correctly. I would say the majority, at least 51% of people, would rather you tell them what to do and they'll just follow your instructions blindly. They'll be content if you tell them you did it right, even though they don't know what they just did. And they'll never really know what they're doing. And so I began to put it all together on in waves. So the wave from the past, when I was first becoming a Christian, and then I was in the church, looking at the church, and then within my job site, working with adults on policy, and then just within my classroom, working with regular people. There's a recurring theme here, Ron. I don't know. There's a few things here that are worrying me. I don't know that many people are thinking that deeply about things, but it's even worse than that. Here comes the crisis. Even when people try to think deeply about things, they don't do a very good job at it. They make a lot of mistakes. And even when the system is well defined, like mathematics, not a lot of people can do well with it. So good luck with things like politics, life decisions, and all those other things. And there's the crisis. It's not a crisis for me. I'm kind of having some, as I read the definition of existential crisis, I'm having some life meaning, life purpose, life value feelings about others. I'm not really sure what to do here, Ron.
Well,
I'm not.
uh,
I'm not sure.
that was a powerful illustration, Jeff. Very powerful.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thanks. So that's what's
Um,
on my mind.
wow, no, that I think I think defines an issue in a very clear way. Tell me though, tell me, because up to this point, I mean, I can't imagine that you've built this, I'm going to call it a pier.
Sorry about the audio here. Okay.
No, that's okay. I'm gonna call it a pier.
A pier
I'm gonna
that I'm
say
going to
I
run
don't
and jump
think
off of.
I don't think that you've built a pier. I think that you've built a bridge.
I like calling it a bridge.
Yeah, I think that you've may have built a bridge, and so I want to hear a little bit more about this thought because I like the illustration. I like the presentation of what the issue is and your observation. And I think it's very clear. And now if you could elaborate and
Well,
go a little, take.
let me do a sidestep. I'm going to step. I'm going to tangent a little here into my wonderful world of axiomatic reasoning because that I think is a tool that one could use if they were trying to figure things out. And if I were to sort of complete the circle on this thing, uh, I think axiomatic reasoning, as sort of discovered over time with mathematics and philosophy, but mathematics specifically, as I'll try my best to explain it, provides a way to work through worldviews. So allows people to more carefully work through their worldviews and what the implications are and so forth. And that would be, Ron, if people were trying to solve some of these problems that we hear discussed in the news and small talk conversations and between friends and enemies and everything. If people were trying to solve problems, which it sounds like we are trying to solve problems, but if we were really, really, really endeavoring to make some progress here, I think the axiomatic method is the way to go. So I just want to tangent for a second and talk about what that is. And that if we were to do that, if people were actually, so for that group of people that are, let's say, trying to actually make headway on this, if they were to carefully approach things from an axiomatic way, I think you really could have some fruitful conversations, even with differing viewpoints. So, you ready for a summary of the whole axiomatic thing?
Yes, yes, I am.
All right. Now, I can't remember if we talked about this before, but an illustration I've used within my classroom when we were going over proof is how you prove things. Hold on. There's a special guest, and she is making hand motions to me. Yes, yes, the show is on.
She's with child.
Oh, oh, hold on. We might have we might have a special guest.
She's
Uh,
she's with
this
child.
no, 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 not not that special guest. But anyhow, so I'm going to tangent if that's okay. I'm going to tangent just a bit here to this thing called axiomatic reasoning. I'll try to connect it, okay? Is that all right?
Yes.
All right. So the example that I use in class when introducing proofs is why? I'm sorry. How do we know it's wrong to end an innocent person's life for no reason whatsoever? Have I discussed this with you, Ron?
No, not
All right,
not
so
in depth. Not in
it goes like
depth.
this. It's a way of introducing proof, and someone might listen to this and say, "How in the world can that have anything to do with proof?" Well, here's how it has to do with proof. So I'm going to guess, Ron, that you would say it is wrong to end a person's life for no reason whatsoever.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yes, you agree? Okay, now I'm going to
Yeah.
challenge you on
Let's
this.
let's go ahead. Let's go
Okay,
with that. Yeah.
so now you're in the world of mathematics. You've now just affirmed something. So I'm going to say you've made a statement. Your statement would be that it's wrong to end a innocent person's life for no reason whatsoever. You good that that's your statement?
Yeah. Sure. Let's do
All
it.
right. Now, within a proof, every statement must have a reason. So I have to ask you, if that's your statement, what's your reason? And let's try not to overthink this.
My reason for.
So
Oh,
your
look.
statement is
Look. No. No.
it's
No. Hold on.
wrong.
Hold on.
Oh,
It's
oh my.
so my okay.
Oh
So
my.
my
Oh
statement
my. Oh
is
my. Uh so your statement is it's wrong to end a person's life
life for
for
no
no
reason.
reason whatsoever.
Right.
And so I'm challenging you on that. I'm going to say, okay, I'm not challenging, I'm asking you to give me a reason for that.
Well, I'm gonna say that. Are you referring to what my personal convictions? Are you referring to my
This is just as an exercise.
observations?
That's it. It's simply an exercise. So don't overthink it. Just tell me why
Yeah.
it's wrong.
Because everybody has a right to life. How about that?
All right. And then that's another statement. And so for that statement, I simply have to ask you to tell me why that's true. Why does everyone have a right to life?
Because we've accepted that.
Because we've accepted that?
Hmm. That's right.
Well, I'm saying I don't accept that. So I need you to tell me why.
Oh, you're saying that you do not accept that
Yeah,
everybody has.
I'm saying you have to give me a reason for that.
Okay. Well, the reason for that is um, if whether you accept it or not, right?
Hmm.
Somebody comes to you, says, "Well, I believe our creator has given everybody life and they have a right to pursue that."
And then I say, why? Why should I accept that?
I'd like a crack at it.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
it's
I can't
Josh.
make you accept that.
Okay. You can't oh Josh, okay, let's well Josh, you may have missed the this is just an illustration of something, but okay, Josh, I'm gonna transition over to Josh, our special guest. So the statement is it is wrong to end a innocent person's life for no reason whatsoever.
Hmm.
So go ahead. Take a stab at this.
Well, I like where Ron was going with the right to life, right? I think the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is based on the conclusion that we're all equal. And I think that the foundation of that we're all equal is founded upon my big assumption that we really can't find a way to figure out why any one person would be better than another. I would challenge anybody to say that it's just impossible because it would have to basically take universal acceptance. The only way to really do that is through violence in and of itself, to go through and actually bully people and force them to accept your position, either with a gun, knife, threatening their life. And so, since we, as I don't know, a rational species, we've come to the conclusion that, well, since we don't think violence is the way to go, then we'll just assume that everybody's equal.
So my question would be that supposing everyone is equal, uh, why is it wrong to kill your equal?
Most likely because they're not going to consent to that, agree to
And
that.
and what's wrong with doing something against somebody's consent?
Well, if we're equal, then kind of within the perspective of the Declaration of Independence, right? That why would these smaller people under the king have any right to step foot equal to the king? And they basically put it to the point that no, we're all equal. Meaning that you need to get my consent before you do something to me. And since you can't prove why your reason to actually infringe your will against me, that you're in a better position to do that, then you shouldn't do that because we're going to just pretend everybody's equal.
What I've already taken issue with this equality claim. I'm saying, so what if everyone's equal? Why does that mean I can't kill somebody? I'm
Well,
saying
you
to you,
well you,
I
you could,
accept I'm saying I accept that everyone's equal. Why can't I
right?
kill people?
I would say then
And
since
I accept that it's against their consent. But I said,
Uh,
why can't I go against their consent?
well,
So
you can kill people though.
oh, you can
You
kill people. It's all
yeah,
right.
you
All right.
can
So
kill people.
no,
Ron's letting it go. He's saying it's okay. But Josh, I'm talking to Josh right now, Ron. You're not the killer, Ron.
yeah, I
You
would.
can kill people.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
But I'm gonna take
This isn't the
Hold on,
purpose here,
hold on.
Ron. That wasn't the goal. But
Uh,
you can.
oh, hold on. Let me.
That's
Well. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Well, let me just go one more with Josh here. So, Josh, even if someone's my equal, and even
mhm,
if it's against consent, they don't consent to it. Suppose
mhm.
I'm asking, why do I have to? Why do I care that they're my equal, and why do I care that they don't give consent?
Okay, so what we're going to do is probably take this one step closer. So my favorite thing about America right now is that this is the foundation, right? Like, okay, we're just going to assume everybody's equal and that government's role is to try to, ensure that everybody has their right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness protected. And it's worth protecting because you can't really say whether people are here to do something or not, right? So ending their life, you're infringing upon them, you're violating their rights. And since
Why can't I infringe and violate their rights? What why can't I do that?
well, it's mostly because as a society, and well, that probably comes back to the original argument. You can't really say that you accept that everybody's equal and that we're going to forego violence, right? Violence is enforcing your will upon somebody else's.
I'm
And it's like,
saying I'm saying from the get-go, why not? Why can't I just be violent? Why can't I hurt people? Why can't I treat even
well,
if people are equal to me? Why not just kill them? And if they don't consent, why do I have to listen to their consent? Why can't I just kill them? I'm looking for you to tell me why. And what if I
and you're
say
looking for a,
why do I have to follow the Declaration of Independence or even the agreement of the culture? Why do I have to follow culture? I'm asking you why.
hmm, I would
Now, Josh,
say,
before you
I,
go.
yeah,
Oh, go
yeah,
ahead. Do
yeah.
you want to go? Go?
Before I got go.
Oh, I don't want to you walked into an illustration. So do
No,
you
this is a
understand
good
that?
one though. I love this thought experiment.
Oh, okay. Well, what would you
The
say next?
ah, trying to think through it. It just kind of comes down to as a society, if we're going to have basic rules that we can sit down and agree upon and build from there, it's almost the essential that we're like, okay, are we going to have violence choose who's right and wrong, or are we going to start with equality? And even to take a page out of your favorite book, that we're all kings and priests to some extent, that we all have, complete sovereignty and um, priest ability to determine what our own religious views are.
So
But if you're not going to do that, then you're destroying the foundations of a functional society, essentially, or creating one that's not one that I want to live in, or am trying not to live in.
yeah, and so the next thing I would say, and I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to say what I would say, would be, well, who cares about functional society and who cares about what you want? Why do I have to have a functional society or a society where you get what you want? Now, but I'm going to stop there and just say that the illustration is that within proof, I do this within my classroom, within proof in mathematics, there has to be an accepted set of axioms as starting points for argument. Otherwise, somebody will simply state, why should I accept that to anything that you say? So
Mm-hmm.
no matter what you say, I can simply think about it seriously. I can pause and think about it. And I tried to with
Mm-hmm.
you and Ron.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, I just have to think to myself, well, why should I accept that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I simply ask the question, why should I accept that? And I don't accept what you say, but I ask for another reason,
Mm-hmm.
what you will naturally do, at least that's what humans
Wait,
tend to do.
say that again. I think there was something really subtle there.
I simply would listen to whatever you have to say, whatever your statement is, carefully
Mm-hmm.
listen to it. But in
Mm-hmm.
the end, I would just say, why should I accept that?
Mm-hmm.
And what humans will tend to do, and I think we all do it, is we want to give a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, the game here is if you dare go and give me another reason, I'm gonna thoughtfully consider it. But then I'm just gonna say, well, why should I accept that? I mean, to
Mm-hmm.
the point where you said, well, this would be best for society. Well, why? Why do we have to worry about what's best for society? This is
Mm-hmm.
for a functioning society. Why does society have to be functional? This is,
Mm-hmm.
what causes the most happiness. Sometimes people say things like that. Well, why do we have to cause
Mm-hmm.
the most happiness?
Mm-hmm.
And if you give another reason, I'm not saying you're denying what the person says. You think about it, but you can
Mm-hmm.
just simply say, why do I accept that?
Mm-hmm.
So within
Until
mathematics,
it breaks down, because then
well, what's weird
you're
about it, it's
just
not
doing
that it
that
breaks
forever,
down.
or it
It's
becomes
not that it breaks
arbitrary.
down. It's what you just said right now. It's called infinite regress problem.
Mm-hmm.
So in a deductive argument where someone must give us a reason for every statement, it's actually someone has to give an accepted reason.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to begin with some foundational things where the people who are arguing with each other actually agree.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the foundations which are going to be used for the argument. I had this conversation with you on a
Right. It's like
walk.
a ruler, right? We're gonna have these inches, and they're going to be this much, and this is going to be a foot, and we're just going to agree on that, and we're going to all agree that it doesn't change on Monday, unlike our dollar
Correct.
bill, right?
It's a perfect example because it's simple and also it's to the point. We can function quite well if we stop arguing about where the line should be on the ruler and rather just accept here they are and we look and see what we can build together with agreed upon measures, while at the same time we could admit it's arbitrary. So we can admit the ruler is arbitrary, but
Mm-hmm.
as long as you and I both agree what 1 foot is, then you and I can both use this tool to actually make progress towards building something like a table that we can sit down and eat together with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they become tools. And so the illustration within my class is just to say that the foundations of an argument must begin with what are called axioms, and axioms are simply statements that we accept.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's an entire, you could spend a lot of time on discussing just why do you accept certain axioms or another. Why does Josh want a functional society? You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so you could spend a lot of time on just why does one choose certain axioms, but just put that aside for a second. And the idea is this: is that axioms are the foundations of reasoning, and then you build arguments with those agreed upon axioms.
Mm-hmm.
Mathematics has this guy called Euclid, who 2,000 years ago
Real quick,
wrote a book called Euclid's Elements.
real quick on that point, are
Yeah.
axioms the same as presuppositions, or a
So,
little different?
so axioms themselves will change from, I should say this, the word axioms or postulates or presuppositions are all very similar things. And the meaning of them, they have subtleties that change between fields of study. So if you're in a philosophy class, it might take on a little bit different meaning. But I'm talking about the pure mathematical axiom where it's truly just a starting point where you accept a certain amount of things almost arbitrarily. Now, yes, presupposition.
Arbitrarily, because you can kind of come back to them and maybe adjust them later if the
Yes. In mathematics, what they actually do, at least what I did within the classes I was in, is they would do exactly what you just said. You'd begin with a certain set of axioms, and then you'd take some out and see what kind of mathematics would result, and then you'd put some in and see what kind of mathematics would result. And you could play with those starting points to see what kind of world is created, if that makes any sense. And so, in that sense, they are sort of arbitrary. And now, it doesn't mean at the end of the day, if we're going to talk about religion or politics or how I'm going to wake up in the morning and what job I'm going to do, those axioms might become a little bit more meaningful. But at some point, here comes the crazy part. At some point, if you follow this line of reasonings, somebody, if they're going to think about the way they're doing things, is going to need to choose some starting points. They're going to reason their way through this world. So anyway, that's
almost
go ahead.
Don't even have a choice in that.
Well, I don't think so. I don't think people consciously do it or thoughtfully necessarily do it, but they are doing it. I really believe they are. So what happened to me is while I was doing some studying of mathematics at the higher level, we were focused on the foundations of geometry, but out of those discussions and things, while I was having my own personal struggles with faith, and at the time was an agnostic while practicing Christianity, it took on a dual meaning. In my math class, I was studying math, right? But in my mind, I was trying to figure out who I was and what I believed. And so since I had those two things going on at the same time, it was easy to see the connections. And then eventually just to draw back and realize that really that's what we're doing with everything. I can't really think of an exception. Now, before you got on the call, I was telling Ron that I was having an existential crisis of sorts. And Ron, are you still alive? I know you mute yourself sometimes.
I am.
All right, Ron. So I'm going to try to connect this back. But do you get the idea of axioms? You begin with some beliefs and then you build a system from it?
Yes.
Any questions or comments about that? Because I'm going to try to connect it now.
No, I am on the bridge and walking.
All right. So I would say this is the bridge, actually, that I can talk to you, Ron, and I can talk to Josh, and I can talk to different people if I'm aware of this sort of axiomatic way of reasoning at a very deep level, because if you and I have agreement around certain axioms, we can build. And if we don't have agreement around those axioms, we can still converse. While we may not be able to build on each other's axioms or together, in a sense, I can talk with you from your viewpoint because I can think about your perspective from your worldview, and you could, in theory, think about my perspective from my set of axioms, and we could still have a conversation and sort of understand each other. And we might even have coincidental outcomes, even though I start from different places. So I might start from some set of Christian beliefs, and Josh, I believe right now is a Muslim, right, Josh? Anyhow, no, I'm just kidding. So for all
I'm
of our
trying to remember what the word Muslim means, because I'd probably
submission,
be like,
I believe.
Yeah, no, I submit to axioms.
Something. All right.
Without choice.
Yeah. So, but just joking aside, for our millions of listeners, I don't believe Josh would call himself a Muslim, although I don't know. But the point is that he might have a different set of views, and he could come to a conclusion that it's wrong to kill somebody. That thing we were talking about before, and I could come to the conclusion it's wrong to kill somebody. So we could have coincidental intersections of outcomes from our belief systems, even though we actually start from different places. So that can occur too. But in the end, all right, Ron, here's where it connects. I really do think if people were being more thoughtful, um, and really were trying to figure out the best solution to all these problems everyone's talking about, that this is probably the best way to do it, is to be more careful. And I'm going to say something that's kind of crazy, actually, and that is that 2,000 years ago, Euclid set down the Euclid's elements. He began with 5 axioms, and he created what at that time was mathematics. He made this huge book, and every single theorem, every single proof went all the way back to those first 5 assumptions. And if you ever read it, his basic goal is to say every single thing that follows in the end goes all the way back to these 5 assumptions I started with. And so with these 5, I can create what we call mathematics. And the reason this matters is that for 2,000 people, 2,000 years, mathematicians have been refining and arguing, adding to those axioms and subtracting from them, and discussing them in a very, very sort of thoughtful, precise way. And it's been hard and it's been challenging. And with all of that work, they're just focused on, let's just say, a simple topic like mathematics, like counting. And we are trying to have conversations about things like ethics, politics, policy. And if it was that hard in mathematics, and if there's been that much refinement, then I'm really worried, if that makes any sense.
What about specifically though? What are you
In
worried
mathematics, it was a very specific, almost simplistic, practical subject, right? Math. Nobody that you know probably questions whether 1 + 1 = 2, but the mathematicians did.
Did they though?
Yes.
Is anybody currently questioning that?
Yes. That's the whole point. That's the whole. In the 1800s, they had a crisis. I'll call it a mathematical crisis, in which they finally uh, realized they did have to start with some axioms because they couldn't prove that 1 + 1 = 2 and things like that without taking on some axioms. And long story short, though, is this, Ron and Josh and whoever. Mathematics, while taking this very strict approach to, let's call it a basic subject, had a real challenge, but made real progress. And we're taking a very sloppy approach to more complex subjects. And I'm worried that we're really not going to make a lot of progress.
Well,
Hmm.
I guess I would have to understand the premise just a little bit better and understand why there's such a debate over 1 and 1 equaling 2.
There's a big debate whether just one exists, right, Chad?
That is,
Well,
yeah.
one?
Whether numbers exist at all.
Does
okay,
zero?
but I mean, what do we in what terms?
Here, I'll have fun with you just to entertain the audience and
In
our
what
incredibly
terms are
large
you
audience.
referring? Because here's what
I'm
I'm
gonna
going to say.
entertain.
Here's what I'm
I'm
going
gonna
to say,
entertain.
Jeff.
Oh, go ahead. All right. Well,
Here's what I'm going to here's what I'm going to say. Um, as much as that may be true, right? In the practical world, I'm not seeing a whole lot of people struggling over whether 1 and 1 equals 2. I don't see people in everyday life going, does it really mean 2? Are you sure? There's other factors that may be present that cause a challenge, but if those factors are clear and everything is agreed upon, as you said, agreed upon, I don't see anybody struggling with 1 and 1 being 2 in the practical world, but I could be wrong.
I'm suggesting that if someone tries to figure things out, not if people wake up, eat, go poop, sleep, you know, of course you can function quite well But people are having debates about things, and that's what I'm saying is analogous. We're discussing things. We're doing more than just eating, sleeping, and pooping. And worse, if you look at the negative side of the world, we're killing each other. Uh, so we have a lot of dysfunction too.
So Jeff, would you?
And if you start to ask questions about what we ought to do, uh, yes, on the one hand, I agree it's very simple, and I think that's also the beauty of it. You can get all minute and specific and miss the forest for the trees, as they say, right? But at the same time, people are asking questions and discussing things, and so
Well,
it's a
I
double-edged
I'm
sword.
curious. I'm curious.
can I interject real
Uh-oh,
Curious
quick?
like a
Josh,
cat.
I already interrupted Josh. Let me let Josh.
Okay.
You you quickly mentioned something there, Jeff, that you're concerned. Was that correct?
I I I I wouldn't call it a true crisis. Like I'm
Mhm.
not unable to wake up and do my job and be a father.
So
Um,
you're a functional
yes, but
you're
I
in functional
am,
depression.
and yeah, and I don't know if I call it depression, but it is sort of
It's a genuine
a
concern,
genuine concern. Yeah,
a little worried.
yeah. And what you missed, and I'll try to summarize this if I could do it in a sentence, was that at first it was me noticing the difference between the Christian and the non-Christian world when I became a Christian. The difference is
Mhm.
there. And then as I became a Christian and developed in my knowledge of Christianity, I noticed even within the church, I noticed some differences between people who are really studying things and people who won't even talk about things. But
Mhm.
then as I got a job and I was working within my job for many years, I noticed that even within your job, there's people who are actively focused on the actual details of policy, and the majority of people are not necessarily, even
Mhm.
if they're
Mhm.
complaining. And then as a teacher within my classroom, year after year, I noticed a huge spread of differences between the people where the majority, I would say, don't necessarily think very much about the topic we're doing, even if they're doing it right.
Mhm.
And those that do try to figure it out have a hard time. And it's a very few number of students who seem to be really understanding what's happening in the classroom. So you put it all
Mhm.
together and then add in the political debates and all the things I was just saying a second ago, and I'm very concerned, if that makes sense.
So I want to be clear about what you're concerned about. Are you concerned that so many people have put in so much effort into something like mathematics that we would think are should be very precise
Simple,
and
like Ron just said, it's simple, right? One plus one
should
equals
be
two.
so simple,
Yeah.
but it's all built on axioms and assumptions. And then we take this to other realms where there are tools that to kind of help us think through things, and people are kind of sloppy and totally disregard those things and
Or
make
if I may jump in, like there's
no, please
unspoken
do.
axioms. There's unspoken rules.
Hmm.
Whereas at least in mathematics, it's set out from the beginning of the book what the rules are that we're going to be playing by.
Right.
And even then, it took a long time to kind of work out the details, even when we
Hmm.
agreed on the rules. And those
Hmm.
rules were not very controversial.
Hmm.
Stuff like I'm not lying to you. A equals A.
Yeah.
That's an axiom in math that you can't prove. You can't prove A equals A. You just assume it. And then,
Can we the four of us at least start with the four of us? Can we conduct an experiment
Hmm.
together?
will I have all my
And
fingers when we're done?
I'd like to present the idea. But when you're done.
Oh, when I'm done. Okay. Does that make sense though? That my crisis is I find it's hard to have a conversation to begin with.
Hmm.
And then a good conversation is even harder. And then if you're actually talking with somebody at length about something, I think it could take hours to really hash out all the details and really make progress. And I am encouraged by the progress that's been made within the subject of mathematics that progress is possible.
Hmm.
Disagreements are able to be ironed out. And
Hmm.
And all those things I believe can occur, and I've experienced that in my own life, with certain people, having long conversations, and so I know those things exist. I just have very little experience that it's going to be a widespread thing, or that it's even going to be something more than me talking to people. I don't know that it's happening widespread, without amongst other people. I don't know.
What are you worried about?
I don't know if I'll call it. Let's see. Is it a worry? I'm concerned that uh,
Hi.
Or
Are
this is a
you at
big.
all
what do you
This
value? What do you
are you
value
at
that
all
you feel is
interested
being
in my
threatened?
experiment?
I am. Let me try to
I
answer Josh's
totally am,
question.
but I'm
Let
really
me answer
interested in
Josh's
this.
question though. My
Yeah.
concern is that uh, I guess I believe in truth,
Hmm.
and I think that there is a best way to live, and I just don't see how we're gonna get there, and that bothers me.
Would make you sad.
I can't say it makes me sad exactly because I feel very content, but it certainly
Hmm.
makes me sad in my interactions with people. In other words, I feel like there's a lot of potential, but it's
Hmm.
not being um, harnessed or whatever you say.
Yeah, it makes me sad to think about how many people just kind of live an unexamined life. They don't really think about what they're doing.
Yeah, that's the phrase, the unexamined life. That's the start of it. But my depression, Josh, if I were to call it that, and I'm not going to call it depression, is that
No,
even
I
when
don't think you
someone
should.
tries to examine it without the so-called tools I'm describing, I think it's a little sloppy.
Hmm.
And then even then, if they get the right tools, it's going to take time and effort,
Hmm.
which worries me.
Hmm. And is it possible to arrive at that truth without going through all that hard work and all those tools and
That's the
thought?
beauty of it. That's what Ron said a second ago. 1 + 1 = 2 is obvious. I think if you take, uh, let's say, uh, let's say the Sermon on the Mount, or Jesus' words, love God, love your neighbor, right?
Hmm.
I think that if people just did that, um, I suppose we'd be all right.
Yeah, I agree.
But people don't just do that.
That that might need a little bit of refinement on some angles, but yeah.
But people don't just do that, though. People discuss and they argue. People make policy.
Hmm.
People govern. Uh, People get in interpersonal conflicts.
Hmm.
It's just,
Well, you make it sound easy, but to love your neighbor as if they are your very own self, to love them as yourself, or as Jesus put it, to love each other the way that he loved us, or to love each other the way God loves us, that he'd give his only begotten son, that we'd love somebody else, that we'd give our only begotten son to die for their whacked out, terrible behavior, no matter what it is. It's not easy as 1 + 2,
the concept.
you know?
The concept, bringing it back to what you're saying, though, like, I don't know that you necessarily have to uh, do all the things I'm saying to come down to come to terms with what you need to
Mm,
do.
with just that, yeah. You're not saying
But
it's easy, but
but
you're saying the
oh,
uh
yeah, what? I'm saying that the concept that if you left it at that, you probably could be all right, is all I'm saying. If but people don't leave it at that, and since people are going to
mhm,
discuss things,
mhm,
and I also don't think there's anything wrong with discussing things. Obviously, I'm saying that you could carefully make progress on all kinds of things.
mhm,
So it's like a spectrum, basically. You can count apples with your child, and you're doing the same kind of mathematics that the pure mathematician's doing with the PhD.
mhm,
Yes, they have this rigorous axiomatic developed whatever, blah, 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 blah. Oddly enough, it is still the same thing. There's something very interesting about that. It's just counting
Mm.
apples.
Yeah, well, mathematics, would you agree it's more of a language than an actual like science, or it's a
I
language
don't
with
know.
which we
I
can
can't
do
answer the
science?
question.
Okay. I think we
I
should ask
yeah. Ron, what's
uh
up? What's your experiment,
Ron's
Ron?
Ron's thing, but I want to just uh footnote that with, I think there is a way to kind of help that happen for people to get to there. I think it's something, it's the most important work we should be doing, is making it easier and easier for people to get there. But anyway, Ron, what is your experiment?
Well, I would like to, because Jeff mentioned the complexity of certain arguments, right? Social issues. So I'd like to take, if we could, a particular topic within social issues and see if there is an agreement that we can come to. And within this circle of people. And then as things arise, right, certain subjects arise and find out whether, you know, that axiom that we agree upon holds any weight.
Now, since this is an experiment,
Mm-hmm.
can I discard the axiom holding any weight part of this experiment? And
Yes.
only because that's a can of worms.
Is it?
Rather, as an experiment, it would be an exercise in identifying your axioms and
Mm-hmm.
how you're getting to where you're going, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then whether or not we have shared axioms or not, and even if we don't, how do we get there?
Right.
And then at those points of disagreement, I think it would be worthwhile to say that that's an axiom I don't accept, so I can't get there. Does that make
Right.
any sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So, so in practical terms, right? I
You gonna pick
mean,
something sticky, Ron?
I don't know. I mean,
I'm
do
kind of
do you
worried what's
have?
gonna come out of your mouth.
Are you? Are you worried about that?
Oh, I got one.
Yeah. What do you got?
Um, here's a real one. It's a real problem for I think for Christianity. Jesus said, "Love your enemies." Let's just stop there.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
kill somebody?
Yeah.
Somebody
No, that's
who's your enemy? I mean, let's say an intruder comes in my house tonight,
mm-hmm.
and let's say I have a gun, and I'm able to kill them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to cause harm to my family. Can I can I kill them? They're my enemy. I'm supposed to love them, according to the words of Jesus. Now, this is me within my axioms. I don't know what Josh's axioms are. And I don't know what yours are, Ron, but my axioms, I'm claiming Christianity, right?
Yeah.
And I'm claiming that Jesus is my savior. He's my king. My king said, love your enemy. And so I'm
Okay.
telling you that that's a tough one for me, because the logical, here comes sort of obvious axiomatic result of that belief that Jesus is my king would be that I should that I shouldn't kill my enemy.
Well,
That that I should let them do whatever they're going to do. And obviously, I could try to flee or something, but I certainly wouldn't cause them harm with my gun. It's very hard to see how loving my enemy means shooting them with the gun.
Is
So I'm
there
not
a
saying I wouldn't run. I'm not saying I wouldn't try to get away. But the question is, if I had the opportunity to shoot a person who was going to cause my family harm, should I do it? And I would say, from my axioms, I probably shouldn't. And I really struggle with that. But regarding axioms, it seems pretty clear that I shouldn't.
Why is that?
Love my enemy. So that the belief is Jesus says to love my enemy. And I have a real hard time seeing how shooting my enemy with a gun is loving them.
Hmm. Josh?
It is a very hard one, and kind of the conversation that we had just come out of. What I've been really diving into lately is called nonviolent communication, and it's how to, kind of resolve disagreements by getting down to the emotions of things and what's actually going on. And one of the things that he actually talks about in that book is the protective use of force. So there's the punitive use of force, right? You came into my house, you you're going to pay for it, right? I'm going to distribute judgment and execution because you broke a rule. Then there is he's coming at you with a knife or a gun or whatever, and you are actually using force to protect yourself and others. And you're not doing it in a way to um because you because you're condemning him, you're using force to actually protect. Which it's just kind of interesting how he breaks it down that way. And so if you're loving your neighbor, and yeah, you come down to this, I reframe it to loving your neighbor, loving anybody and everybody. For me, it's anybody, everybody, everything around you, as if you're loving your very own self. Or I'm a little further out there and treating all things and everything as if they're sacred.
Well, can we
As
can
a
we
quick,
go
oh,
mass shooting scenario here for
oh,
just a
oh,
moment?
before we do, regarding axioms, I think I heard Josh's axiom. As a friend of mine, I should say acquaintance. As acquaintance of mine once said, I think your axiom is showing. I thought that was really funny. She suggested make a great T-shirt. I think your axiom is showing. But Josh's axiom, I heard it come out at the end there. It was, what was it? Can you give that phrase again?
That everything is sacred.
Well, you said something like give hugs to rocks and bugs and seagulls or something. But you didn't quite say it like that. You said love everything, everybody, something. What'd you say?
Yeah, loving everything.
Well, say it again. You said this phrase.
Loving yourself, your neighbor, everything as if it was your very own self.
Okay, that would be your axiom, right?
Yeah, yeah. I tie that into kind of the love that I am with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And if you're not doing such a good job at that, just focus on loving your neighbor as if they were your very own self. And so when you come to this point, if somebody comes into your house with a gun and they're not in their right mind, right? Or, they're in a position where they're going to cause harm to other people who you're also trying to love as if they were your very own self, or loving them as Jesus would love them. What would that look like? How if it was somebody came into your house and they look like you, and you're like, wow, that's me. You're like, oh, wait a minute, they're going to try to kill somebody in here. What would you do then?
I'm imagining myself, seeing myself, and it's just getting confusing. Um, so if I may, I can we leave that one there because I want to hear Ron's response, and then I have a thought that I want to share about all this because I have a purpose, just to be clear. Uh, so Ron, what would you do if somebody came into your house to kill you and your
Well,
family?
let's make it a little more
I
complex than
know, I
that.
know you want the mass shooter situation. You
Yeah.
gonna have a cape too? Are you wearing a cape in this?
Well, let's just make it a little more complex than
I think
what.
it's already complex enough, but
I
Well,
think I
so
got about
maybe,
10 minutes
maybe,
on this call and then I'm out.
maybe, maybe.
what'd you say?
Yeah. I said I think I got a 10 more minutes on this call and then I'm out.
Oh, okay.
So
So I agree with Jeff. We should try to keep it on a smaller, because I don't know. I don't know what the statistics are. What am I more likely to go through? A mass shooting or a home robbery? I've definitely felt a little scared and threatened on a one-to-one basis fairly recently, rather than in a public place.
yeah, well, I don't know why we would have to keep the conversation on a one-to-one scenario. Why we wouldn't be able to talk about the mass shooting
I'm gonna make one
situation.
more
Because
request that we do. You can do it, I guess, Ron, because you want to, but just to keep things simple, because the point is an exercise or an experiment,
and
and
Jeff
it
and I
makes
have
it
both
simple.
already answered the question, or at least talked about it, and you have not.
What do you mean? No, I
And since
am.
everybody else is doing it,
That's an axiom, right?
I'm agreeing with your axiom now. I'm agreeing that you should love your neighbor, and loving your neighbor means that you don't shoot.
So you wouldn't intruder in your house. You've got a gun. They're gonna injure your family. You wouldn't.
No, well, hold on. I just want to
Oh, okay.
go. I just want to go with this axiom thing though.
All right.
Because I want to back up here for just a moment, and I want to say, if I understand correctly, right? Let's just make sure we're all on the same page here. Let's make sure that we can define this axiom, because I'm not sure that we completely agree with it yet, all of us. But let's make sure we do. So the idea that you're presenting, Jeff, is that we're supposed to love our neighbor. And within that, loving our neighbor means that we wouldn't shoot them. No
I
violence,
like
period, right? Under
one
any
refinement there, because
circumstances.
I think Jeff made the fine line of that he should, not that anybody else should. And at
Well,
least that's a fine
I
thing
know,
that I
but
do too. Like I accept things for myself. I don't know if everybody else has to accept those. But
no,
I
no, no, no.
know,
But let's just say that we do though, for a moment. Let's Can we go with that?
okay,
Can we go with
everybody
we
should love their neighbor.
right? And within that, we all agree for a moment, whether you really do or really don't. Okay, we're just presenting scenarios here.
Mhm.
Whether you agree or whether you don't, we all, for the moment, are accepting that that means that you would not shoot under any circumstances. Is that correct?
Well, I've stated I am struggling with this, which is actually going to be my point later. But I'm struggling with exactly how to answer the question. But the mandate seems clear, and it
Okay.
seems that if Jesus says, "But I say to you, love your enemies,
Mm-hmm.
bless those that curse you, do good to those that hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you." You
Mm-hmm.
know, he seems to be doing something pretty radical there that would naturally follow that I would probably let somebody kill me.
Okay.
As a
And your family.
natural, let's say, I'm sorry, as a logical implication
And your
of him
family.
of him being my king.
Jeff and your
So
family,
and
just
my
to
family,
clarify.
yes, yes. So with Jesus being my king and his words are the words I follow. If he says that, I'm saying that I struggle with the natural implication of my beliefs, which is that it seems like he's saying to let them kill me and my family. rather than take, I would actually set that gun down that I have, that I'm in the position where I could actually end their life. But I would logically, based on the words of Jesus, I might say, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm gonna love you. Please don't hurt my family, right? And then they kill my whole family. And that's a tough one.
I could make this pretty practical
But real quick,
because I'm actually struggling with this like in a real way in my real life right now.
you mean there's someone in your house right now? I mean, I know this call is important,
No,
Josh,
but
but
they're
you
so
can leave.
close. They're next door.
Anyhow. Oh, I don't know what you're about to say. You're kind of freaking me out, actually. But
I felt physically threatened.
yeah,
Like 2 days ago, right next by somebody who was standing pretty much at my door.
yeah,
And I'm at the current place where I need to figure out like these small details. Like I even see cops as a use of force and violence,
yeah. It's true.
but I may need to still report it for the safety of other people.
Yeah,
I may need to get a lawyer, which is also using the state's power of use of force and all these other
true.
things. And it's really a hard thing for me to go through because I'd rather just resolve the issue because I believe in talking to people one on one and resolving conflict and helping each other live a happy, wonderful life. And I have failed so far to make any connection.
Yeah, it's a real deal thing. That by all means is a challenge. That's actually my point. So I'll just get to my point. I know, Ron, you never answered, but my point is that even if you start with axioms and we agree, here's the axiom I'm using, practically applying them in this complicated world can be challenging. And that's where I'm talking about my little crisis, is because even when I'm saying, here's my well defined axiom that I'm going to try to use, here's a situation, even then it's hard. Good luck with like a random stranger on Facebook who you're disagreeing about the way the taxes should be used to help homeless strangers, via government policy. Like that gets so complex so quick, and we don't even know what our shared axioms are or what they aren't. And I don't know if I'm being clear or not, but I believe that if we sat here and really carefully worked on this, we might be able to be better people in the end, or at least have a clear sense of how we ought to live our life with your neighbor or that stranger who happens to show up at my house. I think we could probably at least spend some thoughtful, useful time towards like trying to come up with a solution to some of these things.
I'm going to go ahead and step off, but one more thoughtful thing I want to throw in here before I do is kind of even situations like this. Like right now, the three of us are on the phone. Is Dana there too?
She is.
Hi, Dana.
She
And
just waved.
in her picture, you guys are standing so still. How do you get the guts to do that? Uh, but like even situations like this, I've been actually focusing on just whoever I'm sharing time and space with, or actually, I don't really feel like I'm sharing space with you, but that's how I've been defining neighbor, like somebody I'm sharing time, maybe and or space with. And like just making it a wonderful experience for the both of us in that moment. And what then it kind of comes down to the idea of what is it to love, right? Does that make any sense?
The last part I wasn't quite sure, but I do think you communicated that you've been trying to have good conversations in life with people.
Yeah, and focusing more on connection and not too worried about defining so many things about the past or the future, just being present and enjoying somebody's company and to be enjoyable to them as well, and nurturing them in whatever way that they might need to be nurtured, and I don't know, making myself available, humbling myself, fulfilling any needs that they have, or even accepting help from them. I've been finding a very interesting point of humility is that people who often might consider themselves humble rarely will even accept help. And I'm finding that's a interesting point of humility, is to actually accept help and to let go of you having all the answers or can take everything take care of everything yourself. I don't know. Just some random thoughts there, but I do need to step off. It is so cold out here.
Adios.
I need to get some.
Did you, out of curiosity, make the bold call here to discuss the thing I asked you about in the little thing I wrote to you?
When did you write that to me?
Oh, never mind then. I sent you a little email that had a request for you to come on here to discuss something. Yeah, I guess you didn't get that?
Email tonight,
Yeah.
DJ Ron.
Never mind. Well, obviously you didn't. Never mind. I thought you actually came on because I asked if you would come on to discuss something, but I guess you didn't get that email. You just decided to come on because I was pestering you?
Mm, yeah, it's not so much I don't want to come on. It's just a matter of, I guess, prioritizing it over
This is
sleep. But
this is
I do
this is
think,
this is the most important thing, Josh. Just don't
yeah,
forget that. Axiom number one, DJ Ron show number one.
yeah.
Nighty
And
night,
that's
Josh.
the end of the show. I
All
love
right.
you
Thanks for
guys.
coming on.
Yeah, thanks. It was fun. Talk to you all later.
All right. Hey, Ron,
Mm-hmm.
am I making any sense from start to finish here? How it's all
Um,
connected or no?
you are. I think you're making perfect sense. I guess the issue is, um, presenting things that, are, once you've laid that foundation, going past, the initial questions and taking it a little bit further.
I have another example. Someone on Facebook accused me and my wife of having the ultimate and greatest egos because we have 8 children, and for every child we have, it's just like we're creating more versions of ourselves, and therefore having 8 children is the most selfish thing we could ever do, and it's just a expression of our ego. We're just like egomaniacs, I guess. um so that's a different perspective. And I decided in listening to this, or reading what this person wrote, to try to understand them so that I could kind of think about.
Pound them into the ground.
No. So that I could understand them, and
I'm
because
liking that solution.
Okay, now this is genuine here. I genuinely find it interesting when somebody is saying such, what I feel are sort of crazy things, like what is going on in their head? What is their belief system? How do they come to these conclusions? Especially without even knowing me. That's the part I find the most interesting, I think, is that this person is getting into my mind and knowing me, and my motives and everything. Anyhow,
Without revealing, can you somewhat give like the connection, the relationship?
this, I guess, well, it was a friend. Let's just say a friend of Dana's from as early as middle school, from a long
I,
time ago.
I'm sorry, my phone dropped and I didn't hear what you said.
A friend of Dana's from way back in middle school on forward through high school.
Okay. And she is the one, or he, whatever, right? He, she. Um, in some states, I guess, now you can get your driver license that says other. So we'll say other. How does that work? Oh, by the way, I have some questions. Like, so,
Oh, wow.
you know,
This is a
an
little
off.
bunny. You're a little bunny just hopping all over the place.
No. So here's so okay. The oh my gosh. I start going in like a million different directions with all these problems.
That's the bunny
So
analogy.
yeah, no, the bunny analogy is great actually.
Hop,
That's
hop. Hop
that's
to
the
it, Ron.
Yeah, we'll have to get a sound effect. Boing.
that's the reason for children, so you can, have your bunnies running and taking care of stuff, right?
All right.
Anyway,
Anyhow, go ahead. I was gonna. Well, go ahead.
okay, so we have this friend, and she's decided that your amount of children has made you haughty, I guess, in some terms, right? You're prideful.
Yes.
No,
Well,
no,
I don't
no.
know. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, Dana. Correct.
Just that the initial charge was that our families or our breeding habits were due to our selfish egos.
Oh, and let me ask, I mean, just initially, does this individual have children?
So that, that's, I think, as a parent of more than one child, you do have that initial shock wave of like, it's so contrary to what your experience as a parent is to relate selfishness with parenting, especially when they're little. It's I think all parents we've talked to about this have laughed, but no, they do not have children.
Well, Jeff, back to the beginning of our conversation tonight. One of the pieces of the illustration that you were giving was this idea that, students, and there's, obviously within mathematics, right? And sometimes they're more complex than others, but with regardless of guidelines being straightforward, right? Certain students struggle.
Yeah.
They just don't get it. I would put this individual in that category.
Okay. Hold on.
They,
Hold on. You don't
they
know a
just
thing
don't.
about them.
They just don't get it.
It is
The guy,
possible.
the guidelines are very, very clear. Most people don't argue with it. It's accepted in academia. It is widely published kind of information. It's taught widely around the world, although maybe communicated differently with obviously different techniques. But most people don't walk away with that kind of conclusion. So I'm going to say they just don't get it.
Oh, can you hear Dana?
No.
Oh, Dana, you're off the call, but Dana was talking. So I didn't say this.
Hey,
Okay.
no, I'm not off the call.
Oh, she muted herself. I'm sorry.
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So we've had some fun. We were really trying to dialogue with this person.
I'm not having fun. I'm actually
No. But we have had a few moments of fun, and we shared some of our fun with him. And one of the moments was it was really late. I was so tired. It was like 10 o'clock, I think, after a long day. And oh, hey, calm down. And my daughter
Little
barfed.
feeding frenzy there, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. Nibble, nibble. So my daughter, 5 years old, vomited on my bed, on her arm, on my clothes. And it was like, it was just because she had too much junk food. So it was like junk food vomit. So, I can't go to sleep, right? I have to clean up my daughter, clean up my bed, you know, clean the mattress. And as I was dealing with the puke piles, and Jeff was helping wash all this puke, just another slice of selfish pie. Yummy. Because, like you've acknowledged, that argument is valid. It's kind of absurd. So I'm
Well,
just concurring with
maybe.
you that we've responded to that like, oh wow, like that doesn't even make sense.
Well, Jeff
Yes.
waved his yellow
Other
flag, and
avenues could make more sense, like, oh, you possible.
You're cutting out, Dana. At least you are for me. Is she cutting out for you too, Ron?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, we can't hear
Sorry. It's okay. It wasn't important. I'll go back to mute.
Yes, Ron.
Well, I would like to hear what Dana said.
Oh.
Dana, if
Well,
you
one thing
could.
I haven't said to this individual, and I do have a purpose in my conversation if he will continue to talk to me, but in is my opinion, which is that there could be numerous reasons for someone having a child, and that whatever. I mean, there's so many reasons someone might have a child. Um, but
Well,
once a person has their first child, I, I'm- I could be wrong here, but I think most people are like, wow, this is a really big deal. Um, a bigger deal than you realize. I don't think there's any way that I could have comprehended um, all there's feelings involved, there's time, there's a whole bunch of overwhelming things that occur when you have your first child. And so while the first child, I'll give I don't know why someone has that first child, but when someone has that second child or third child, then they know what it's like to raise a child, and it's hard to see them as selfish. As a matter of fact, I have had numerous. If there's one thing that people have said to me over and over again, it's this: "Wow, you have 8 children. I have one child, and it's just it takes up all of me basically." Or they'll say it like this: "Oh, you have 8 children. I have 2 children, and it's it." Or they'll say it like this: "You know what? I wanted to have a lot of children too, but once I had a few, it was just we had to stop." And that's because I think while I love my children, I believe children are a blessing. It would be almost insanity in a sense to act as though raising children is not going to require tons from the parents.
Yeah, I'm struggling. I'm struggling with that one. Unfortunately, they're not here to ask questions, and
Oh,
I'm
hey
almost
Dana,
I'm almost
invite
positive that
Sean. Oh,
they probably didn't give you any specific reasons why they made that
no, they
statement,
did.
right? Oh, they did.
So
Really?
I
Okay.
wanted to know. Let's get back on task here. I am bringing this up because that to me is kind of an extreme thing to say. It's culturally speaking, it's extremely rude, but I don't mind if people are rude, to be honest.
No.
That's just my personality. But so I'm fine with people being rude, or shall I say it a better way, people being very straightforward and honest. I like straightforwardness and honestness. I almost kind of wish that if other people felt the same way, that they would be honest too. So I don't mind that part of it. And so here's this person saying something that seems pretty extreme to me. And so I wanted to figure out what are their axioms? What are their beliefs? How do they come to this conclusion? And so I've been asking questions and learning, and it's honestly been interesting because they continue to give me information about their opinion on things. And from this whole axiomatic point of view, it's going to be difficult if I'm ever going to make progress, like conversation wise, as in here's what I believe, here's what you believe, whatever. But it has been interesting to learn why this person would say something like that, and to better understand how their brain is working and how the heck they come to these conclusions. Which ties it back to this whole axiomatic stuff. Is you? I think it allows me to have conversations with people I disagree with in ways that are good, I think.
So what reasons did they give you?
They said that there's too many people on the planet, and so there's already 7.7 billion. So we're adding to that population. We should have adopted children. We're just adding to the problem of overpopulation and creating more mouths to feed. We already can't feed all the mouths that we have on the earth. And the second thing is the reason this matters, and that is that since everyone on the earth is you, because we're all one, and God is you and your God, and everyone's God, and everything is equal. That means me and you are on each other and so forth. Then when I hurt this planet, the planet two is us. When I hurt the planet by having more children than the planet can sustain, then I hurt myself. And I don't want to hurt, I need to love myself. So it's actually selfish to hurt myself. And what I really want to do is I want to love myself by doing what's best for the planet, which is myself, best for others, which is myself, and my children in particular. I'm not able to give each of them the same amount of attention that I would if I just had one child. Then me and Dana could give all of our attention to one child. But now my attention is divided up amongst 8 children, and therefore they're not getting as much of me as they deserve. And again, I'm hurting myself. So if I really loved myself, I wouldn't hurt myself.
Mm. Mm. And where do they happen to get this? What is this?
I believe they say it's true.
It's just true, right?
It's always been true. It's the truth of eternity. And if you just look inside, you know it's true too.
Right. So look within, and we're all connected. We're all one, and yeah, okay. I see where they're going with that. So that was the reason that they gave you. That's interesting. And I think just going back to what I originally said, yeah, pretty clear they just don't get it.
Well,
And unfortunately, I say unfortunately because you can make those kind of statements, and that's fine, and that sounds unfortunately, I think for them, they probably said that with a lot of passion and a lot of fervor, and they probably felt like that was some very original, deep-hearted kind of statement. Maybe not though, but it sounds.
yes, it sure sounds that way. Yes.
Yeah, but it sounds to me very cliche. Sounds to me very pop culture, spirituality, that we see. I see a lot of people making those statements. I don't see that as an original thought. I don't see the origins of those thoughts. present in anybody's arguments that make those statements. They just say this is what it is, and that's there's an axiom there that exists within that culture, within that thought process, right? And again, it's not limited to a small portion of the population. That's a widely held kind of belief these days. So there does seem to be some kind of axiom that exists amongst that group that believes those things. What that is, they haven't seemed to be able to define or at least present as a I think as a foundation for that. That's unfortunate. I mean, I think it sounds lofty, sounds pretty interesting, but at the end of the day, I don't see why that somebody would approach you and make those statements and come to the conclusion that you're selfish. I mean, it sounded like to me, from the statement that he said or she said, whatever. I think Dana meant reference to he. So I'm going to go with he. It sounded like he said that it sounded like your selfishness wasn't unintentional, but it was intentional. So it kind of sounded like you were intentionally being selfish, or are you just ignorant? Is that what they're saying? What's the deal there? Are they saying that you don't know what you're doing and you're just
they're
being
saying
selfish?
that
You're
I'm having
animalistic,
children, so there can be a bunch of little me's on this planet. And that's why I'm having children. And so it's all about my ego.
Mm. And again, they don't have children, right?
They don't, but also they don't. That particular aspect of it is the most interesting to me because it's so disconnected from how I feel. Um, I just simply don't look at my children as little versions of me. Like not even naturally. Maybe
Yeah.
other people do. Maybe other people do. And I've actually seen, or I've actually felt, I think before I had children actually, but I think I have felt that some people like want like a little version of themselves or something like that. Um, I
So
don't know where that feeling comes from. I don't know, but I do know this with my own children. I can't remember a single instance within my natural personality where I have this thought that, ooh, like that's a little version of me, and and I'm not saying others don't have that feeling, but for me, I don't even have that occur naturally. I believe children are a blessing,
just
and I think
let
they're
me
of the greatest value when it comes to things on this earth. I believe they're of great value. But this idea that I look at them and I see myself and I want to see a bunch of me running around,
yeah.
I actually don't
Let
have that naturally occurring thought. And
let
that's the
me
weirdest part when I read his thing. Because
let me
maybe that's the way his brain works, but for me, I don't even have that as a naturally occurring thought.
hmm. Let me ask another question. Does this individual have siblings?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, and that would that's where the conversation would begin to get interesting, is when you start asking questions in that realm. Talk about their siblings, talk about extended families, talk about people that they care about, people that they love. You know, I would I would tend to think, what they're saying is pretty short-sighted at the end of the day. I mean,
sure.
I could develop the thought much deeper, but without exactly knowing where they're even going with this. I'm speculating, but I'm speculating about all their problems that they have with their thought process. And I don't know. I again, I would personally chalk it up as this individual unfortunately just doesn't get it.
But
Maybe they would join a call. I don't know. Maybe
that'd
they're
be
willing
interesting.
to.
And I would encourage that always. I like talking about different perspectives. However, I don't want to forget why I brought it up. I brought it to say that out there in the world there are many different perspectives, and I hope I can at least get back to the point of me bringing it up, and that is that in this case, to me, even though it's an extreme perspective, in my opinion, in my observation, um, in my assessment or whatever, I feel I'm approaching it differently than just saying that's dumb or whatever, right? This axiomatic sort of thing means I'm going to look and I'm going to wonder and I'm going to explore what's going on in this person's belief system. And then in a perfect world, I could continue talking to them and we would learn each other's belief systems and we could actually have a long conversation that's meaningful because I'm learning, why they believe what they believe and they would learn why I believe what I believe and we could actually have a meaningful conversation. So the point of bringing this up was not to actually discuss it specifically, but to actually use it as an outright crazy example, but one which I think I feel a lot more comfortable in the year 2018 having this tool of axiomatic reasoning to just kind of step back and say, okay, what is this person's belief system? How did they get there? And have that conversation with them. And even though I think their conclusions are completely out of sync with anything near reality for myself and what I perceive it to be, I'm still able to have a conversation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I I would love to have a conversation with that individual. I would love to have a conversation with anybody that holds that view. Again, I say that view because I don't know that anybody has been able to really truly define it. Um, I, I, I I'm gonna say, and it's not the first time. I don't, at least for me, but it's not the first time that you've heard that kind of thing, right? I mean, that's not a unique,
Yeah.
right? I
Ironically,
mean,
this person says that, and this is truly ironic. This person says that I'm with the masses, that I'm just following the masses, basically.
yeah, that that is, yes, ironic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
because because the trend right now, if anyone's paying attention, is less children, and if anything, our birth rate numbers might be approaching the backwards number where you start to lose population for the United States. Although we have a lot of immigration in this country, but our birth rates, you know, in developed countries they decrease, and it's
Hmm.
more normal to have one or two children, if
Yeah.
any children at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the reason and the push for immigration, because at the end of the day, with birth rates the way that they are, um, we know what that ultimately will look like. It's a decline in population. So in order to adjust for that, right, um, you make adjustments to policy. You make pushes for immigration. Um, you change, as it's widely published, in places like Japan or China, right? They make changes to their birthing policies and what they will allow people to do and not do when it comes to having children, right? To control those numbers, which is pretty fascinating. but a whole nother subject. But that's all widely published. It's all very well known, except, well, I don't want to say very well known, but it's very available information. So this individual that says you're kind of following the crowd, that um
Yeah, that's
I
it is laughable.
I just okay, and I guess here's the thing. I wouldn't I would hope that my sarcasm would be very, very tame in that kind of situation, talking to somebody like that. But I really do feel like I just you have to be. I mean, you have to be out of touch in a lot of ways. I mean, you do. You're not thinking through anything really. I mean, that's and here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I am not saying with making that statement, I'm not saying that I will not willing to back up and say, hey, I could be very wrong. They could have a very logical reason. They could have very good arguments and that they could present why they feel the way that they do. And maybe they don't have great arguments, but they can at least articulate beyond these cliche kind of things why they feel the way that they do. If they could do that, I mean, that's a good discussion. But simply saying that you're wrong because you're wrong isn't really an argument. It's not a conversation.
Well, they seem to have
Accepting,
some sort of thought out view. I would almost call it like a obscure religious belief,
yeah,
meaning it's not very common. The extreme level to which this person is going down that path, I think. So it is almost like an extreme secular belief system. Although this person isn't saying secular, they're saying that God is real, but that they are God, and that we're all God, and the planet is God, and so it's all like I think they might actually see themselves as having escaped their woke, Ron, and
yeah,
that's why you're so out of touch with what they're saying. I would
yeah,
guess they would probably believe something like that. But anyhow, so that's my existential crisis. You asked me what was on my mind. That's what's on my mind, and I'm
okay,
I'm kind of despairing, if anything. It doesn't mean that I'm sad necessarily or depressed necessarily, although those words were used tonight. Um, but it does mean I'm kind of at a loss, if that makes any sense.
yeah, yeah.
Not
Well,
really sure what to do.
well,
Definitely can't really talk to a lot of people. I know Josh came on and we didn't get the chance to get to it, but he's an example actually of someone like I think I can't really talk to you because if I say the wrong thing, it's over.
right, right. I
But
mean, that's
we didn't get to that. But I wanted to bring up that he's actually part of my.
mhm.
Uh, he's within the realm of my concern. Is he actually is an example within the last few weeks of the category of like you can't even talk about these things. You
That's
can't
right.
talk with people. You can't
That's right.
disagree. You got to talk. If you're going to talk, you got to talk in a certain way.
Hmm.
And so,
Yes, yes. That is correct. It's a good observation. Unfortunately, he ducked out a little sooner than we could get
because
to
he's
that because
sane.
that
That's
would,
why. Because he's
yeah,
sane.
probably, but that would have been a good discussion.
Or an over discussion.
Or an over discussion. Yeah.
Anyhow, Dana is around. She appears to be getting things done. Unfortunately,
Okay.
she appears. I can see her in the other room. She's working on stuff.
Well,
Almost like she's. This is like a This is not her first priority.
Well, I mean, the was that her in the background, or was it um
No,
I
no, I think I hear her in the background. Here she is. No, that was Chewbacca.
well, obviously interesting interesting discussion, Jeff.
Oh, is this the end?
I think it might be. I think it might be.